To the world, you're somebody, but to yourself, you're another different person. You put on a mask that's fueled by these insecurities and you project them onto everybody else. And you overcorrect. You either become a people pleaser, a pushover, or an asshole. If this sounds like you, then you clicked on the right video, because today I'm going to show you exactly how to drop this fake mask that you've been putting on for so long. And I experienced the same thing. I mean, I was an insecure kid, lack of guidance from my father, lack of a masculine role model. And so I put on the persona of Andrew Tate. Yes, Andrew Tate. Bitches, money, fighting, no emotions. And it was all just a show. It was all just a mask to hide the deepest insecurities within me. As you slowly peel back the layers, you realize who you truly are. So let's get right into it. So the first step to finding who you truly are is removing your ego. You see, your ego is a mechanism that's made to tell yourself the same outdated story about yourself to survive. And it does this over and over again. It's essentially the mask that you're putting on. It's the projection of all your insecurities. So you tend to do the opposite of what you feel insecure about. Put on this mask and show it to the world. And don't get me wrong, your ego can be your greatest tool. I'm not telling you to not have ego. I'm telling you to not let it control you, because it can also be your biggest enemy. And so this process requires removing your ego completely to get to the root of your insecurities, of your desires, and of the paradigms that you have in your mind. Because once you remove this barricade of ego, all these insecurities and limiting beliefs, they come to the front. And there is when you catch them off guard. There is when you analyze them, which brings me to the second step. Analyze what's coming up. Once these insecurities and self-limiting beliefs come up, rigorously analyze them. Confront them, even though it may be hard. It's going to make you uncomfortable, but you must confront them to understand where they truly come from. So for example, if your insecurity is that you're short, in reality, it's not that you're short that makes you insecure. It's the feeling of lack of power. So now let's do a little thought exercise. You're insecure because you're short. And the reality is that you're insecure because you being short symbolizes to you that you have a lack of power. And therefore, if you tie your power to a genetic characteristic that you cannot change, then you're never going to become very powerful, are you? And then even farther, what is power to you? Do you see how tying your self-value and your system of beliefs to something external, something that you can't change, can be very dangerous? And it's what you've been doing all along, and it's what society has conditioned into you. But it's not true. It's monsters under your bed. They're not real. Once you understand where these are coming from, you have to do step number 3, which is understand that these are part of you and accept them. No matter how much you try and hide them. I mean, have you seen the kid in school who tries to act all gangster and you just know he's not? He does this to protect his insecurities, but in reality, his insecurities are seeping from his persona. I mean, everybody sees them. It's almost cringe. The harder you try to protect these and dig these and bury them deep, the more they're going to come out. On the opposite end, have you ever seen the kid who maybe is fat, but he takes it with pride? The kid who's short, but almost flaunts it? He comes off as much more confident. He comes off as much more charismatic or magnetic. And it's because he's integrating his insecurities. He's understanding that no matter how hard he tries, these will be part of him, and he's okay with that. Now, this isn't to say, for example, I'm fat, body positivity, let's just be fat. This is to say that I'm fat, let's change this because I want to change it, because I want to be a healthier person, because I want to be able to feel better, because I want to be able to look better. But we're going to accept how we are now to be able to change it. We're not going to shit on ourselves. We're not going to say, oh, I'm fat, I guess I'll just never change. Oh, I'm doomed. You're going to change with acceptance that you know who you are and who you want to be. Which brings me to the 5th step, is to create a value system. So ask yourself, what do you respect? What do you admire? What do you hate in people? What do you really not care about? And by the way, it's going to be very difficult for you to come up with these answers, so I need you to really deeply introspect. And I need you to follow these previous steps that we had to be able to complete this introspection, because things are going to pop up like, for example, what do I really respect? Money. But that's just society or whatever you heard, whatever persona or mask you were sticking to. Because in reality, let's go deeper. Money signifies something to you. Money can signify safety, it can signify power, it can signify recognition, validation. Dig deep into that. So for example, if you come to the conclusion that you admire, you respect power, then let's think about that. What is really power? It's the ability to act in a certain way without any constraints. If you tie your height to power, for example, do you really need height to be able to act a certain way, to be able to do what you want? No. Or for example, money. Do you need money for people to respect you? In reality, what is it that you respect in a person? Is it courage? Is it capability? Is it honor? All those three things don't require any money. Money is an outcome of that. So you come to a point where you realize that this mask that you put on, fueled by these insecurities, or trying to portray something that you already had, you just didn't know. So for example, if you were trying to overcorrect and be super powerful and super masculine alpha, that takes away from your power, because your power comes from your insecurities, because your insecurities symbolize something. And if you dig deep and realize what those are symbolizing, what's coming up, you realize it was never an insecurity to begin with. It was a source of inspiration. And I mean, this is going to be an experience that you're going to realize in every single action you do. When you go up and talk to a girl and you get rejected, you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel rejected. Introspect. This leads me to point number 6. Never stop doing this rigorous introspection. You need to keep confronting your insecurities, your desires, your paradigms, to be able to understand who you truly are. This is an exercise that consists of your whole life. So for example, if you go up to a girl and you get rejected, you might feel bad, you might feel like shit. But in reality, why? It's because you don't feel validated, you don't feel enough. And then you start realizing that your validation and your self-worth is tied to another person's opinion of you. A yes or no from a girl who you want her number from. And then you realize it's okay if she says no. She doesn't desire me. She doesn't want that. That's okay. On to the next one. I shouldn't feel bad about that. For example, when I used to play basketball, I used to tie all my self-worth to how good I was. So when I didn't make the high school team, I felt like shit. I mean, I went on a depressing episode of just feeling like I was worthless. When in reality, here's the truth. I wasn't good enough to be on the team. That's okay, because I could have gotten better. But my self-worth doesn't rely on basketball, because really that's just a ball bouncing. My self-worth was tied to my ego, which meant that my ego was tied to my basketball abilities. Again, something external. Your actions have to come as a consequence of your internal values, not the other way around. Because that's the whole problem with motivation, is that motivation comes from external sources. So you do action based on external sources, not on internal values. When you have discipline, you understand that even if one day you don't want to get it done, your internal values tell you otherwise, and so you keep doing it. So, I just solved you 3 in 1. Your insecurities, your limiting beliefs, and your lack of discipline. Now, do these steps and really, really, really be open to the experience. It's going to be very uncomfortable realizing that you've been this fake person your entire life, that you've showed this mask to everybody else. And you know what's going to be the weirdest part is that once you stop showing this mask to everybody else, you might lose some people. You might lose some friends. Your parents might think of you differently. Some girls might think you're weird. Who cares? Because I'd rather live an authentic life with a few people that accept me for who I am than an inauthentic life and everybody accepts me for who I'm not.